From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Overtime Podcast.
From the Fox 8 studios in New Orleans, this is the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. Remember to rate, subscribe, like, review, share to all of your friends out there who enjoy this type of content. I'm Vasilios. That is Sean Fazan.
Yes, I am Sean Fazan, so be sure to rate, review, subscribe. We have, wherever you get your podcast audio-wise, we have the video version on fox8live.com and also the Fox 8 Overtime YouTube page, so please subscribe to that page, like, share, leave comments, do all that stuff. We're trying to crank as many videos out as we can on that page, so feel free to go by and check us out and follow us on Twitter. It's for all things sports, all things Louisiana, and everything in between. That was the old logo. That was the old saying we used to have to say coming into the podcast, so I just wanted to get that out there. But today, Wednesday, mid-April, April 19th, is that correct? April 19th?
Yeah, I believe so.
So April 19th.
Yes, it is.
What are we going to talk about today? Well, we've been in this extended version of this extended sweet spot, if you will, in terms of free agency over, draft next week. The free agent frenzy really dies off by the time April rolls around, and then the draft's not till late April. So you get your pre-draft visit mode, you get into your workouts, your pro days, all those things, and then you get a little lull because honestly, all's been pretty quiet on the Saints front. In fact, I was out at the Zurich Tuesday, and just bringing it up to some people out there. It's like, almost eerily quiet. Yeah, it is quiet. It has been quiet. The only thing that's popped recently, you'll hear some names being thrown out in terms of visits. I told you guys the top 30 visit process, I think it ends today. But it's the last bit of information they were getting on a prospect. Maybe they couldn't go out to a pro day. Maybe they wanted more information. Maybe there was a medical situation like they had with Hendon Hooker. Nonetheless, I think the Saints used just about all 30 to bring prospects, and the UCLA quarterback was the latest one I was able to see from, I forgot who exactly tweeted out. May have been Schultz, the Schultz report. I have to check that out. But nonetheless, no reason to doubt the report. So let's just take that as fact, I guess you could say, because it's a time of year. So, but what I wanted to get into today, I have another mock draft coming out print-wise, but I have the names right here. So for the first time ever, I'm going to broadcast the names of my second mock draft. And who knows, by the time you watch this, maybe it'll be up on the web at some point in print version. Maybe not, but nonetheless, you're going to get the names right here for the first time as opposed to the print version where I'd read off the printed page. So that's a little different. And also this, our last pod, we spoke about the scenarios in which the Saints could move up. Still think it's a very real possibility. We gave you the scenarios. We gave you the potential deal, the potential compensation. Now today I'm going to give you a list of players that I feel the Saints, who the Saints will look at and say he's worthy of a move up if that player slips. So, and then we got a little bit of kind of a few nuggets here and there. I know Michael Thomas posted a video. People are freaking out over. I am not freaking out over off-season workout video season. We do it every year with every player. Not doing it.
And it always bites us in the butt, doesn't it?
And until he's healthy on the field, I am not going there with any sort of take or any sort of view on his health at this point. So why don't we get into a little mock draft session? Are you ready?
I am always ready.
All right. So eight draft picks for the Saints. Some will be repeat names. Some will not. There's been a little bit of change based off of what my own research and based off of what I think the Saints would like, based off what or who I believe could be available in certain spots. So, at 20, no trades in this because it's hard to project.
Yeah.
I never do trades in mock drafts, especially trades up because you just never know. But it's on the table. Anyway, we'll get to that later.
Always.
So, you ready?
Always.
All right, let's ready. All right, so first round, 29, I stayed with the defensive tackle out of Clemson, Brian Breesy. I don't want to butcher the name. I'm going to give all three versions. Again, I came this close to switching to Mozzie Smith out of Michigan. His name, I know you've done some research. His name is really starting to pop. Matter of fact, the last mock I read before I left to come here had Mozzie Smith going to the Saints. I came this close. I love his run-stuffing ability, but I still think a little more well-rounded Breezy is, and I think if he's available, 29, and he's a guy, man, I've seen him top 10. I've seen him second round. I've seen him early 20s. If he's available, I think Breezy is a guy the Saints could target, and in this mock draft, I had them taken.
Yeah, no, I like that pick a lot, and I mean, with either of those guys that we just mentioned, the Saints really can't go wrong. Mozzie Smith, obviously, the stronger of the two, a little more run stuffing ability. Breezy, whatever you want to call him, he is probably the more technical, the more finesse oriented, I'd say, than Mozzie Smith in comparison. But again, either way, you can't go wrong. But Breezy still being your guy makes total sense and is a very valid selection.
All right, so number 40, you recall the last mock, I had a guy I really liked in Isaiah Falsky out of Notre Dame. I made a switch. Again, Falsky's another guy. I just did a simulator. Top 10 pick. But I saw another mock, another simulator, had him available in the third round. But there's a prospect that I've really started to study and I really like. He's 6'5", 285, and I think he's the guy. He offers position versatility. The Saints need an edge player, and I think he's a guy they can groom to eventually replace Cam Jordan. His name is Keon White. Georgia Tech, can play outside, can play inside, strong on the edge. He's a big end that is probably more suited for the strong side, which is where Cam plays at the next level. I started watching this tape more and more. Very active, high motor. That's good value, I think, at 40. Keon White out of Georgia Tech. So that's a new player on the list.
Yeah, I don't recognize the name, but the first two picks being defensive lineman tracks, and that's a great way for Dennis Allen to kind of reload that defensive line.
Moving on to 71, I'm a stand for this guy, so there's no way I'm taking them off my mock draft. You know who I'm talking about.
We talked about it last night.
We talked about it last night on the Fox 8 Overtime show. I'm going to do it today once again. I love Tajay Spears. I want Tajay Spears to play for the Saints. I'm picking him at 71, running back for the New Orleans Saints. Out of Tulane, Tajay Spears. I have talked about him since his days at Ponchatoula. He has talked about wanting to play for his hometown team. I bumped into one of his guys recently. He reiterated that he would definitely do it. And you know, there's a likability with Tajay that it's not being discussed enough. I don't know. It's an intangible. I don't know how to describe it, but he's just a very likable guy. So I think he would fit in very well. And I think he's kind of enjoying this pre-draft process, and he's handling it quite well. So Tajay stays on. 115, fourth round, another repeat. We will get his name correct once again. Tight end out of Old Dominion, Zach Kuntz. Again, a specimen, a massive human being at 6'7", 255. Apparently ran 4.5 40. They could use a pass-catching tight end. Absolutely jumped off the tape at Old Dominion. Didn't start there. Started, I believe, Penn State.
Yes. So
he is a guy that I love value-wise at 115. I understand the small school stuff. But, you know, given the way this draft is going, at least according to my mock, I think this is good value, a guy that could get on the field rotational-wise if he's able to catch on to a pretty complex offense that is the New Orleans Saints. So that's the last of the repeats. Breezy at 29, Tajay at 71, and Kuntz at 115. From here on out, and you had one new guy, that's Keon White out of Georgia Tech. So let's move on.
Yeah.
Fifth round at 146. This is a new name. Interior lineman, position versatility, center guard, Jarrett Patterson out of Notre Dame. If you recall, last one I had Nick Broker. I liked Jarrett Patterson. I liked this film. I think this is good value at 146. Once again, it is entirely possible and probable that the Saints will address the offensive line before this, but they're going to address the offensive line in this draft. And I think given where they stand at tackle and given a little bit of uncertainty at guard, I think this might be the way to go with who they actually target along the offensive line. 165, another new name. This might upset some of y'all, but I don't think it's a bad deal. Matter of fact, let me just check just to make sure. There wasn't any other any other updated information on him, but let's see.
The name doesn't ring a bell for me. You might have to explain him a little bit.
Let me see real quick.
Just enjoy some hold music.
Right. Sorry about this, guys.
No,
this is podcast. You got to let it roll. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
There it is. All right. Just wanted to make sure I was getting all my stuff in a row. The Saints brought him in for a visit. I have told you that it is smart business to invest in the quarterback position. The last draft, I had them going in the 7th round to Stetson Bennett. I think that's good value for that round. But I do think this guy may have a little more upside, a little more size, ability, accuracy. I'm going with Aiden O'Connell, quarterback out of Purdue. The Saints hosted him on a visit, according to multiple reports. He's a guy that I've heard through the grapevine that they like. They've had success with Purdue quarterbacks in the past, or at least with one. At 165, this is a textbook example of a guy you can maybe groom into a solid backup and see what happens after that. Because as we mentioned last podcast, that is becoming a more and more necessary part of the equation, is to develop backup quarterbacks. Developing a guy that can come in for a 6-game window and get you and keep you afloat, make enough plays, make enough good decisions to get you 3-3.
Yeah, we saw the 49ers were excellent at that this past season.
No one does it better than them. In fact, did you see the report today? They're fielding calls for Trey Lance because there's an assumption that Brock Purdy, who is still recovering from an elbow injury, is going to be the starter. How about that? For Mr. Irrelevant to starter over a number 3 overall pick or whatever it was a couple years ago. That's neither here nor there. But Aiden O'Connell, to me, over Stetson Bennett is interesting. Again, he's a little more of the prototype more than Stetson. I liked Stetson's demeanor. I like the fact that he got better, and I would be fine with him. They took him in the 7th round. But for this mock, I'm going with Aiden O'Connell. Next pick into the 7th round. First of their 2 7th-round picks, a local name.
Another one.
From Louisiana State University, safety Jay Ward. Jay Ward is a guy they loved in Baton Rouge. He offered great versatility. He can play outside, inside, safety. He eventually settled into that safety position. In games that he missed, his presence was missed. Jay Ward in the 7th round, to me, is great value.
Great value.
In fact, I'm surprised in most mocks he's available this late, but I'll take him. So, and we know the whole LSU draft by Saints thing. Whatever. I'm done with that. But
LSU aside, though, I mean, the Saints love their versatile defensive backs, the ones that can play in every single position on the defense.
No doubt about it. And this guy offers you that. And I think in this portion of the draft, you're drafting a guy that can play a little special teams too. We'll see if he can do that. But I think that's good value. And then we close out the draft with another DB, Mekhi Blackman, cornerback out of USC. A little undersized at 5'11", 180, but can play outside, can play inside. In the 7th round, I felt like this was good value coming out of a big-time program. So let's add it up. We have 4 offense and 4 defense. The one thing I didn't do in this class, and now that I read it, I'm a little bothered by it. I didn't select a linebacker in this class.
Ooh, that is interesting. That is interesting.
That's so yeah. I didn't draft a linebacker in this class, so we'll see if that pans out. I don't know. Again, the draft is very fluid, and sometimes these drafts go certain ways. But the way the numbers fell out in this class, or at least this mock draft that I did not draft one. So we'll see if they hit the undrafted circuit and under that hypothetical mock draft situation.
If it makes you feel any better, in my probability mock from last week, it was like a less than 10% chance they take a linebacker.
First round?
In the first round.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who would be
Obviously, that number goes up the further you go down the draft.
I can tell you this because I did a couple, and kind of thinking out loud here. The one guy that was potentially available at 40 that I liked was Drew Sanders, linebacker out of Arkansas, a big linebacker, but really played well. Started his career at Alabama, finished it at Arkansas.
More of a run support guy, I guess.
Dayon Henley, linebacker out of Washington State, was another guy I was looking at heavily to the Saints in this draft. But no dice there for this one. But nonetheless, it's a mock draft. Do with that as you may. They are what they are. So,
Absolutely.
What do you think?
I like it. I like the changes you made. I think those names are definitely interchangeable. I mean, you're never going to get 100% of your picks right, and if you do, you need to go out and buy a lottery ticket.
I have done mock drafts, and I've done 2 or 3 versions every year since like 2012, and the best year I ever did was 2017 when I got 2 right. 2. And it wasn't in the right spot. But I got the 2 names right. And by the way, if I have a mock draft and a name is on it, that counts. That counts if the Saints draft them. Regardless if it's version 1 or version 2, doesn't matter. So that's our rules in the local media circuit, who gets the right picks correct. All right. So now that that's done, let's move into the other part of the equation, which is probably going to get talked about more and more as we get into next week, because the Saints will talk. They won't say anything, but they will talk. Next week, it'll be Mickey Loomis. He'll crack the joke. He always does. How he says something, or he'll talk, but doesn't really want to reveal anything. We know that.
Yeah.
But there's going to be discussion about trading up because that's what they do. And I've already told you why I think there's a chance that could happen, because 29 is a long way away. There is a strong chance someone they have graded in their top 15 is going to slip. And once you get out of the top 15, I think that's when you can get in within striking distance to go up and get a player. The question is, who? What player? Who could that player be to go up and get? Well, I got a list. I got a list. And look, I want to preface this by saying this is realistic options, not, look, Bryce Young slipping out of the top 15 is I'm not doing that. Okay, but there are a couple names here that are projected to go high that you just never know. So why don't we start? You ready?
Yeah.
The top on my list.
I know this name.
The top on my list is a name you mentioned last week. He's a guy that I think could slip because he was not a starter. Because I didn't realize this. The head coach does this. If you're a senior, you start over there. That's Iowa edge player Lucas Van Ness. The grades have him going in the top 10 to 15 range. I mean, you talk about a specimen. The dude is 6'5", 270, something like that.
Yeah.
Very productive, even though he was technically with the second unit. If he slips out of the top 15, I could see the Saints picking up the phone and making a call to go up and get that player. Because, as I said before, they need a D tackle, but they also need an edge rusher as well. And depending on where they pick in the second round, maybe they can address the other need at that point. So, Lucas Van Ness is one of them. The next one is Myles Murphy, the edge player out of Clemson. Another one. Grades are a little all over the place. Early first round, middle first round, late first round. But he's got the size, he's got the speed, he's got the makeup that they would like for an edge player, and they place a premium on edge player. So if he slipped out of the top 15, I could see Myles Murphy going up for the Saints to go up and get that player. Another edge player. I think you've seen a theme here. This is a little unrealistic, but, if it happens, it happens. Tyree Wilson, edge player out of Texas Tech. He's rated top 2 or 3 players in the draft. Some have him the best edge player in the draft, him or Will Anderson. But if he slips, maybe they make a move. But I put a star next to that one, as you can see, because that's probably the most unrealistic one that I have.
Yeah.
And then Jalen Carter, because of the issues in the off the field with was it a car accident or something, or some kind of issue he had?
Yeah.
There's a chance he could slip, and I was told last year that they loved the defensive tackle from Georgia that came out. His name escapes me right now, forgive me, but if he somehow slips out of the top 10 out of the top 15, I could see the Saints making a play for him. But, again, another star next to that one, because I think that's still a little bit of, I don't want to call it wishful thinking, but probably a little more unrealistic. And the last player I have, I don't know if they'd have to move up high to get him, but I could see them liking him because of his all-around ability and the fact that he was a huge part of Notre Dame's offense a season ago. Tight end, Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame. Some mocks have him available at 29. So this would be a modest move up. And it really depends on, if you're the Saints, how the draft develops, how you feel about a group of players being available when you pick at 29 versus, there are only a couple that you like at 29 that are available, say, pick 18, pick 19, to where you feel a little more urgent to go up and get that player. So Lucas Van Ness, Miles Murphy, Michael Mayer, those are the three probably more realistic ones, and then Tyree Wilson and Jalen Carter. The players that I think, should they slip, the Saints would have their eye on to make calls to move up and get. That's what I think.
I like it. And the Lucas Van Ness, just to pull up my stats from last week in the first round, 15% chance that he falls to the Saints in the first round.
Well, if he falls, that's great. If he falls, that's great. If he falls, I think all bets are off with the D tackles at that point.
Yeah, I think so too.
So, I just, based off what they go after, based off what I know they need, based off what's available, and, it's not always easy to find these edge players.
Never.
I could see that being a possibility for the Saints. So, fun times. I know it's a little quiet now, but it's going to pick back up next week in a big way. Enjoyed the Zurich Classic this weekend.
Yep.
We talked to Will Lutz. We talked to Pete Werner, who looks played pretty well on the golf course, and he looks great in terms of just his health. Will Lutz was pretty open about acknowledging his shortcomings last year and agreeing to the adjusted contract, which is a pay cut, ladies and gentlemen. He took the pay cut willingly to get himself back up because he would have gotten cut had he not taken it. So, enjoy the little lull. By the way, the Saints have started off-season conditioning. It's just working out and running right now. Mid-May is when on-the-field OTAs begin, and, I'll be there for that, whichever ones are open to the public. So get ready, because next week it's going to get really it's going to start cranking up next week in terms of draft talk with the Saints.
All right, so like Sean said, we got 8 days until the NFL draft. We're going to bring you all the best coverage starting next week. And, heck, we're doing it right now, matter of fact. But like Sean said, enjoy the Zurich Classic. We'll be back next week with some more draft content. For Sean Fazan, I'm Vasilios. This has been the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast.